Hello everyone, welcome to my channel here at Moose Plaid Mountaineer. Thank you very much for tuning in this video. Let me just ask you a real question here. When it comes to your everyday carry, do you want everything at your fingertips or just the essentials that truly matter? Today we're putting in two worlds of Victorinox Swiss Army knives to a head-to-head conversation here. The fully loaded heavy hitters, like the Victorinox Work Champ, the Victorinox Swiss Champ, and the Victorinox Handyman, as well as the Victorinox Swiss Army Ranger. Okay, all of these are, as if, they're streamlined legend, fully loaded tool sets for their size. Or would you consider yourself to be someone who mainly cares about particular bare essentials for an easier, more convenient EDC carry, such as the Victorinox Climber, the Victorinox Compact, or the Victorinox Companion Slim? Okay, so let's do a breakdown of all these knives, and toward the end I will give you my two ultimate choices from one extreme to the other on what you should truly consider for your EDC needs and scenarios that you might be in. All right, let's start the breakdown. We're gonna start with, for these first four, okay, move these ones out of the way. Okay, these four here are the biggest that you can get in the Victorinox lineup, okay? First and foremost, you have your biggest and largest knife here, the Work Champ. This one is good for people who have large hands, who have a lot of rough and tough projects, either around the house or in a work setting, where they just need to get through a simple task or simple function that will last them through the unprecedented moment or event at which they find themselves in, okay? Starting with your large knife. If you notice that click, it's because this knife is a locking blade, which is very advantageous to a lot of people who have rigorous cutting to do, knowing that the blade will stay there and hold itself in place for those tasks, okay? And might I say, this particular knife is very easy to sharpen per the method that I showed you in my last video. This particular knife it's very easy and to sharpen to a very fine point to make cutting incredibly effortlessly, okay? Also has a half stop, okay? So you have the knife blade there. In front of this knife blade, you have your standard size can opener and 3mm Phillips driver, which you find here, which you'll find on any 91mm Victorinox model as well. On the other side, in that same line, you have your 3-in-1 flathead screwdriver, bottle cap opener, and wire stripper. What's unique about this tool is twofold. First and foremost, it does lock into place. It's also a lot thicker, and if I may add a third one, you could actually put a 1/4-inch size socket on here that that has the lock, that locks in. You have your 1/4 inches, you have your different sizes, right? You could actually put this in here, it will hold into place, and you could actually do basic little socket tightening and get them quite firm because of the robustness of this tool. And I've actually used that on several occasions. Oops, sorry, bumped the table. I've actually used that on several occasions on an impromptu setting when I didn't have an actual socket wrench at the time. So that is a little Easter egg function I'm giving you guys for anybody who has this tool or any tool like it, which you will find also on something like the Forester, if you have, right? Also locks into place, okay? So with that aside, I find that a very useful tool to have on here in my rough and tough scenario for work tasks. Aside from here, you have small pliers, precision pliers, right? Nothing like you'll find on a plier head set multi-tool. However, these are very good for fine picking up precision items, right? I know this is only a pocket clip, but you can see that you can get very precise. You pick up something like this, right? You pick it up just fine, okay? That was just a piece of dust on the table here, okay? I use this style of plier head in my work setting because of all the small material and small pieces and components that I deal with on a daily basis. Okay, so I actually do carry this with me at work occasionally. I have it in my vest, And when I have some small items that I have to pick up or components, I whip this guy out, because touching them with your hand, particularly when you work in a welding environment, it's very cumbersome, and not to mention you get burnt fingers a lot. So this helps me avoid that on a very, very particular level. Okay, alongside the pliers, you have your pair of scissors here. Okay, again, very good. This is the same size you'll find in any 91 style Victorinox knife. And behind it, behind it, you have your, I did forget a tool. You have your micro screwdriver here, a style of micro screwdriver. Very fine point. You can use it for the tiniest screws on any type of battery packs that you have to for replacing anything for those toys that your kids have. Okay, and there's also one that I forgot. It's behind the pliers, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you have this small, larger 3-dimensional Phillips driver as well here. I almost forgot. And it's closer in contact with the actual body tool of itself, so you could essentially get more confident force in there in the torquing motion without having to worry about it folding over as easy. Okay, so that being said, you have those 2 screwdrivers. Okay, alongside those 2 tools that are behind the plier head and the scissors, you have your 2 full-size tools, starting with your wood saw. Okay, again, I've used this wood saw a lot for processing wood for branches that fall down off my pine tree that just keep growing straight out. Okay, and it saved my skin on dozens and dozens of occasions. Aside from there, you have your full-size file, single cut and cross cut, and of course the bottom tool, which is very effective for cutting basic little metal rod about 1/4 inch, probably no more than 1/2 inch. Okay, obviously with vigorous use it will wear out quickly, but it's nice to know you have that function if by some chance you don't have your tool on hand. You could always use this to get yourself out of it. Okay, so that's essentially the tool set that you'll find on the Work Champ. And of course on the back you have your awl, very effective, along with your corkscrew and micro screwdriver. Okay, and then of course tweezers and your toothpick, which soon I will replace that with a ferrocerium rod so it's fire capable. Okay, so that is the Work Champ. After that, you have the Swiss Champ, okay, which is essentially the smaller and more precision version of the Work Champ. Okay, but it has a little bit more tool function even than the Work Champ. Okay, this has about 35, 36 functions. Okay, so you have your flathead Phillips driver along with your can opener, your 3-in-1, your flathead screwdriver, bottle cap opener, and wire stripper, along with a inline Phillips and magnifying glass. Okay, which helps you really focus on that print in a much better scenario if your sight is failing you. Okay, in the next layer, aside from that, you have a pair of pliers, very handy. Again, for precision picking up. Another instance where I actually use these pliers a lot is for changing out flat razor blades that I use for scraping a stove. Okay, where if they get too worn out, you can't just grab it in fear of potentially cutting yourself, right? So you grab it like this, and you slowly work it out of the channel. You toss it away in a very safe manner. Then you pick it up, grab another one, and slide it in, and get it secure. And you can do so safely with this style of plier. Okay. Aside from the pliers, you have your precision pair of scissors. Okay, which seem to have a worn out spring to it. I haven't changed the spring in a couple years in that one. So when the springs slowly wear out, they can go to and fro from a little bit from side to side. So it looks like I got to change that one. Okay, I actually have extras up in my room. And then of course, aside from there, you have your fish scaler. So interesting little impromptu on this one that I discovered about a year ago. You can actually use this to do kind of simple drywall cutting. So what happened was I couldn't find a saw that I had, and I had to cut out a little, had to trim up or replace an outlet. And the outlet was such where it was bigger than the hole that was already there, so I had to trim out about another 1/4 of an inch. I actually used this fish scaler to actually slowly slice through it, and it was pretty darn cool to do that. So let me know in the comments if anyone wants to try this out and see if it also works for you, because it actually worked pretty darn good for me. Because a lot of people over the years have complained about they can't seem to find another function for this fish scale except for scaling off all the scales from a fish, and then of course the cleaning method you guys got to use to make sure all those scales don't get between the tools, and then the mechanisms and all stuff is kind of cumbersome and bothersome. So I think drywall is a secondary use to be able to use this as kind of like a drywall saw. That's very handy. And in my opinion, you just put a little protective little cone around here that I made mine out of cardboard. All right, I just folded it just like a thin piece of cardboard, kind of like the material you use from a, what do you call it, a cereal box, right? Make a little slit there, put it through, and then you just put a little tape around here so that when you're sawing back and forth, it doesn't get directly, you don't get tons of it in here. It's just a tiny bit here, and then you just get an air gun and you just blow it out, and you're as good as gold. But that's a little Easter egg method you can use with a fish scaler. Sorry, I didn't mean to digress that much. Next to that fish scaler, you have your wood saw. Good grief, I'm bumping this. I'm so sorry. My apologies. You have your wood saw, which I've used a lot. We've talked about a lot and why I've used it. I would use this wood saw for about anywhere from 3/4 to maximum 1.5 inch size material. Okay. After that, you have your file, which is, again, has a point for micro screwdrivers, capable for cutting metal and doing hard plastics and rubbers and wood, right? And then you have your small blade as well as your large blade. Okay. Now, the reason why I put this in the video is because these and those are actually very similar in price point, but look at the size of those. Okay. Look at the size of those. They're almost the same. So if you're somebody who really enjoys a large style, go for this. If you like the more compactability and more precision style, then you can do that, right? So they're very good. They're very good in their price point. They're very good in their functionalities. And these are some of my two favorites when it comes to absolute functionality. Now we're going to get more to the preferential particulars of it all, okay? So now you have something that's slightly more compactable. It's also around the same price as the Swiss Champ and the Work Champ. But if you need something that's slightly more compactable, this essentially I would consider to be the child between the Work Champ and the Swiss Champ, okay? So the tool, and so what you're getting here essentially is a Super Tinker Deluxe with a wood saw and a file, if anyone has that tool set memorized. But if you don't, let's go quickly through the tool set. You have your 3mm Phillips driver and can opener. You have your flathead screwdriver, your bottle cap opener, and wire stripper. Next to that, you have your pliers. Okay. Again, we've discussed some functions and where you can use that on a precision level, not only particularly for safety reasons and to avoid just a lot of little particular grief that you just can't do if you have big hands. Okay. Aside from those, you have your large pair of scissors. Very sharp, very handy, very precision. Okay. Here's your wood saw. We've discussed what you could use that for. About 3/4 to 1.5 inch branches for cutting, right? Along from that, you have your file, again, for your screwing and tinkering and dinkering for those little smaller screws that are in a lot of little simple little battery packs and toys that your kids have, or little small fixturings or electronics that you have in the house, right? This is a great little tool that will save your skin on many occasions. And then, of course, alongside that, you have your small blade and your large blade. Okay, so that's that one. And this one also is really close in price. This one actually, strangely enough, is a little bit pricier than even the Swiss Champ. It's actually a few dollars pricier. Maybe because this also packs a lot of punch in the back here, which means you have your little flat chisel, which I actually use more for kind of an impromptu scraper because it comes to a fine point, as you can tell. I can't get it to fit. Let's see if I can get it to. Yeah, you can see it comes to a fine point. Okay. Aside from that, you have your small flathead, dolphin head flat screwdriver, your parcel hook, and your reamer awl. Okay. now we have, what's interesting, now I have, this essentially is what I consider the love child between the Swiss Army Handyman and the Swiss Champ. This is what I consider to be the best choice for absolute most function and compactability. And this one here is the Victorinox Swiss Ranger. This here is one of my all-time favorites that I thoroughly enjoy, okay? And I will get to the reasons why. This guy packs over 21 functions on this guy, and it's, including the scales, a little bit more than just an inch, which I find quite impressive, okay? So again, this one, you have your can opener and Phillips driver, along with your 3-in-1 tool of flathead screwdriver, bottle cap opener, and wire stripper, okay? Then you have your scissors, very, very good scissors, very sharp, very precision, alongside your wood saw, and where'd it go? Your file, again, for precision screwing and smoothing out a lot of wood material and kind of your hard rubber and plastic materials, okay? Very, very good. And for scraping out stuff that's deep, that's kind of deep crevice, that's also another good function for that one. Okay, and then after that, of course, you have your small blade and your large blade, okay? And then what really packs a punch, what gives this the extra punch, is the capability of the back tools, which is very similar. This is one of the few tools, this is one I think of 3 that have the same back tools as the Swiss Champ, okay? Only the Handyman has the same back tools as, the Handyman and the Swiss Champ have the same back tools as the Swiss Army Ranger, okay? So you have your chisel, okay? You have your flathead dolphin flathead screwdriver. You have your parcel hook, and then you have your reamer awl, okay? And this one, in regards to price point, you literally, in my opinion, can't get better than the Victorinox Swiss Army Ranger if you're somebody that really likes a lot of bulk, really likes to have the capacity to resolve a lot of simple, unprecedented DIY activities just to get you through so you can get to a more dedicated tool later. This guy will save your skin time and time again. This is one of my all-time favorites. If you're one of those guys, this is an excellent one to get, okay? So with that being said, those are the most bulky ones that you can get. Now, for the secondary part of this, you have the Victorinox Swiss Army Climber, you have the Victorinox Compact, and then you have the Victorinox Companion Slim. These are on the other spectrum, the lesser spectrum, for those who really not only admire, but value the need for bare minimum essentials and its most compactable setting. These individuals are people that are probably some of the most innovative and creative in problem solving and don't necessarily need a large tool set to see them through any given scenario when it comes to just quickly fixing any style issue in the moment, okay? The biggest of these to start off with is the Victorinox Climber, okay? You have your 3mm Phillips driver and can opener. You have your 3-in-1 flathead screwdriver, bottle cap opener, and wire stripper. Aside from that, you have your scissors, precision, very sharp, and will last you a very long time, along with your small blade and large blade, okay? Not a bad option. Okay, my dad carried a Victorinox Executive for many years. As a matter of fact, I still think he carries it. Which brings me to my next one. This one is, in my opinion, one of the most reminiscent of the Victorinox Executive. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore. They've discontinued it in the late 90s, early 2000s. But in my opinion, since I was somebody who always wanted to carry an Executive and didn't have lots of access to money, when I found out that they had a Victorinox Compact, I jumped on it because it's, in my opinion, it is reminiscent of the tool features that you have, okay? And I'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so what the Victorinox Compact has is it has over, I think it's 15 or 16 functions within this knife for just being a 2-layer knife. Hence why it's called the Victorinox Compact. Compact's a lot of function for the size and weight, okay? First and foremost, you have your full-size pair of scissors, okay? Then you have your full-size large blade, and then you have your 4-in-1 combo tool. You have flathead, you have a flathead driver, Phillips driver, bottle cap opener, and wire stripper. Okay, this particular model, I think it is. Do I have it here? I do. Yeah, I have a ferrocerium rod, which makes this fire capable. In my previous video, I've showed how you can use a Victorinox Compact or any Victorinox tool that has the good grief, the wire stripper on it, as being able to start a fire. Okay, so those are the top tools. The bottom tools are just your parcel hook, but your parcel hook has a diamond fall in the back of it, which this is actually good if you're somebody who's carried matches. You can actually strike that on there and it will start. Just an FYI, please make it a strike anywhere match, because if you try to use strike on box, they won't work. So you need a strike anywhere match. Aside from the compact, you get, when you normally get it, you get a micro screwdriver with it. But what I've added here is a micro screwdriver and then tinder here, if in case I don't have or can find any small bits of tinder to start with a ferrocerium rod strike from my Victorinox. I also here have a small pin, right, that comes with the compact, as well as plus scales, which means you comes with a ballpoint pin as well. Okay, so that's the Victorinox Compact. Okay, that is a favorite among a lot of EDC users. You will not go wrong with that in the least if you want bare essential minimum tool sets. Now for the latest one to come out. This one packs, well, to say it packs a serious edge on all the rest of the Victorinox knives is, well, a little bit misguided, considering that this does not have a blade edge on it whatsoever. It's called the Companion Slim because it does not. It is a knifeless one. Okay, so you have the signature tool that comes with the Victorinox Companion of the box cutter, and they have added to it your 3mm Phillips driver. And this box cutter actually is very, very handy. Do I have any cardboard out here? I do not, so I can't. Well, I sort of do. Okay, here's an old screw box. So you know, see if I can do this in frame. Trying to do that in frame. All right, so it's pretty good. Just trying to do it in frame. It's a little bit tricky. Let's see if I can. There we go. Okay, so let's see if I can do this in frame here. That's pretty good. Ugh. It's actually a lot easier. It's just I'm trying to keep it in the camera so you can see it. But yeah, so you get the point. It's a good box cutter. Look, I just did it on top. It cut it right, no problem. Okay, so that's a signature tool along with your 3-in-1, your flathead screwdriver, bottle cap opener, and wire stripper. And then, of course, the cutting implements that are on here are scissor-based, which is, by definition, TSA approved. This is something where I consider right on the border. So if you want to carry this through an airport, I would get an officer's input before just keeping it in your pocket. Okay. The idea is that it's bladeless, so in theory you can take it through airport security. But depending on the individual, I'm sure they'll tell you yes or no. So, but these are these models here are Victorinox's best outlay for bulk in regards to functionality, all the way down to your slimmest model to bare needed essentials. Okay, so now for the last tidbit of the video, which ones would I personally choose out of all of these knives if I was going from the most extreme to the most bare essentials on my end? Okay, I technically have 3. Okay, so I don't just have 2. Okay, so if I was doing a rough and tough environment, I would most definitely carry the Work Champ. Okay, rough and tough, straight up. I would use the Swiss Army Work Champ. If I was in a scenario where I was doing a lot of micro dinkering and tinkering, I would carry, as you guys guessed it, the Victorinox Swiss Army Ranger, because it's some more precision, it's finer. I don't, I'll most likely have other tools with me, but I need something a little bit more precision to help me along the way. Okay. Now, if I'm going bare needed essentials, I will actually take the Victorinox Compact. Those are my three choices that I would choose, because rough and tough can do pretty much whatever you want. A lot of micro precision dinkering and tinkering, the Swiss Army Ranger. And if it's bare needed essentials, the Compact. Okay. Now, here's where I will even add a fourth for certain people. My suggestion is, if you are somebody who does a lot of travel in and out of state or even country, I would even suggest go down as far as the Victorinox Companion Slim, because that way, if you're carrying something and you potentially forget it, you can make the case of it's knifeless, it just has a pair of scissors and other simple tool implements on it. It's non-threatening. This will, in the end of it all, cause you a lot less grief than carrying other most knives. Okay. So, to sum it all up, I just want to ask you one final question. Sorry, give me a second. Into my notes. The final question I have for you is, which knife of these three do you already carry? And which knife will you carry if you are going to make a decision today to carry one? Okay? Please let me know in the comments which ones you carry. Please let me know in the comments as well your input and which one you would like to carry. I will put all the information of these knives in the comment section. Please look at them. Get one now if you want to change your EDC scenarios of becoming more victorious and feeling more in the hero in the moment. Thank you very much for tuning in this video. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Press the like button and subscribe if you like my content. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all in the next video.